Wow, I haven't done one of these in a long time, and I really, really, really apologize. So last time, I believe I kicked off with my final surgery to get my port in, and then talked about chemo and the side effects. And I'm still battling a lot of the side effects: brittle nails, nausea, constipation. You know, it's life. But I found better doctors than where I started, better nurses, and it's made this journey more tolerable. So chemo ended for me on the first round in January of 2018. Everyone always talks about like their anniversary date for cancer, like when they were free of cancer. And I had no idea. I flat out asked my doctor, I was like, what date is that? Is that the date I got diagnosed, the date I had surgery, the date I started chemo, the date I ended chemo? It's the date I ended chemo. So my last chemo was January 28th of 2018. But I wasn't done because I have the BRCA1 gene mutation, and I discovered that my great aunts and my grandma all died of either breast cancer or ovarian cancer. Didn't know I had a great aunt Catherine. She died in her 30s of ovarian. She had two daughters, and they both died in their 30s of ovarian cancer. So my grandma, my great aunt Rose, they had breast cancer. My aunt has breast cancer. So, runs strong in the old Castler strain here. Um, so I opted to have a double mastectomy to have my ovaries, uterus, and fallopian tubes removed. And so that was my next step in this process. And it's a lot. It's a lot to have that done. And recovery was really hard because I'd just finished chemo and I'd already been missing work, and I wanted to just like wrap everything up so I could get back to work and have this in my past. So lots of folks have asked, would you recommend reconstruction? And to be honest, looking back, I understand the decision I did, and it has to be your own personal decision. I didn't have hair. I still don't have hair. I didn't have any female organs, and now I was going to lose my breasts. And to me at the time, I felt that having reconstruction would at least give me some semblance of still feeling like a female. Today, I don't know that I would have done it. It was a lot of recovery, it was a lot of discomfort. But it is what it is. I did where they removed the belly fat. Woohoo, I was fat. So there was a lot to go. And they kind of funnel it up into your chest for the reconstruction. I did have a friend that had the implants where they have expanders, and she was absolutely miserable. She had a lot of issues with that. But I also know people that had waited for reconstruction. They went in for either the belly fat moving up or the implants, and they did really well and really enjoyed it. So their recovery time was really short. I should have listened to the doctor a little bit better about giving me some time between when chemo ended and when I did these surgeries, but I was just ready to get everything done. So the surgeries were, like I said, pretty intense. So I spent, I think, 10 or 12 hours in surgery because they did the double mastectomy and then they immediately did the reconstruction. I'll talk about financials here after a little bit, but I was in the hospital for 5 days and then finally got to go home. After you're done with chemo, after you're done with surgeries, you're kind of just maintaining. And both my husband and I asked both of my oncologists, like, do I get scans? Do I get blood tests? Like my fathers have had, prostate cancer, and they can kind of look, or colon cancer, prostate, I think it's prostate cancer. And they could take a blood test and it would tell the markers if the cancer was still there, if it was going away, whatnot. And essentially, by both oncologists, we were told, no, we don't do that. There are too many false negatives, false positives. It's very stressful on the patient to have so many scans being done all the time. And you just have to listen to your body. So if you have a headache you can't explain, if you have body aches that you can't explain, like you didn't go out on a 5 mile run, um, if just if you're having a hard time breathing all of a sudden, all these are indicators. Well, you know what that does? Makes you a 100% hypochondriac. Like, oh, I have a headache. I never have headaches. Oh my gosh, I must have a brain tumor. And I'd freak myself out. And I went and saw my oncologist because I'd see her every 4 months now that I was done. And I told her that, and she said, you know, when I was in medical school, she had a photographic memory. She was studying all of these different diagnoses. Sorry about moving around. Um, and she said I became an absolute hypochondriac. I looked at everything and thought, oh my gosh, I have that. Oh my gosh, I have that now too. And she's like, I'd sit at the dorm or at home at night, just going over like every ache in my body. So she could relate, which was really nice. And I can't give you a tip or a secret not to go down that path. You do have to listen to your body and you do have to let them know when something's off. I was having really bad headaches and then I started tracking them, which then made me think, am I adding to my headaches because I'm stressing myself out thinking that I have headaches? But I went in to see my general practitioner and she actually diagnosed that it was medicine that was causing these headaches. And once she changed my medicine, my headaches immediately went away. So that was good news. I felt lumps, I had scans, it was just scar tissue. I have a lot of scar tissue on my body from the surgeries and reconstruction. Um, and after a year or so, I just kind of was able to put that on the back burner and just embrace the fact that, you know, I faced cancer head on. I did everything I can do. I'm going to try to live a healthier lifestyle. I'm going to try to lose some weight. And I just put one foot in front of the other and started my path of recovery. So it's been 4 years since I finished all of that, and I headed back to the Midwest. So we're going to get into stage two, essentially step two, phase two, whatever you want to call it, of this cancer journey. And once this video is done, then I'm going to talk about financials. But I went back with my husband to Burnsville, Minnesota, and Black River Falls, Wisconsin, to see the kids, the parents, the grandkids. And on our drive, we left Kuski, Idaho. You can all Google where that is. It was around 30 degrees. It's January, and that's about typical for us. We have fairly moderate winters. And but it was a hellish drive home. We left in the evening trying to get ahead of a storm. We were smack dab in the middle of it, driving over Lolo Pass, and looking forward. We're the only people putting tracks down. It's snowing heavy, and I'm looking in front of me, and my husband's looking out the side window, going, "Oh my gosh, look at all these moose tracks!" And in front of me, there's this huge moose. I'm screaming, "Moose, moose, moose!" And slams on the brake, and Moose doesn't care. He just walks off. And Brent's like, "Oh my God, did you see the rack on that?" I was like, "Well, I saw something that I knew was a male." So we continued on and we spent the night in Missoula with some friends. And then we got up the next day, and our goal was, to make it well into North Dakota. Well, we got just outside of Miles City and it was whiteout conditions. It was horrible. Hope you're enjoying the music in background, by the way. Um, and so we pulled over for the night in Fargo, or not Fargo, Miles City. And I mean, this is like, Brent's driving, but I'm tensed up because a semi would go in the westbound lane. There's a whole median. We're in the eastbound lane, and it would kick up enough snow that you couldn't see anything. We literally would come to a stop, hoping nobody was behind us to slam into us. And then once that cleared, we'd continue forward. And so Fargo was where we, or I keep saying Fargo, Miles City was where we stayed for the night, and it was 0 degrees there. So we get up the next day and we head thinking we're going to make it to Burnsville, like we've made it across Montana now. And the same type of situation happened by the time we got to Fargo. That's why I keep mentioning Fargo. So we stopped in Fargo and spent the night, but it was now 50 degrees below zero. So it's an 80-degree temperature drop. And the driving's been stressful. The roads were horrible. And we finally get to my mom and dad's. We spend a couple days with them, and then we head over to Black River so we can see Brent's mom and dad and the girls and grandkids. And when I got there, my back and neck were just killing me. I my head kind of hurt, and I thought, well, I must have gotten like a cold or an ear infection, especially with that 80-degree temperature drop. I mean, that's massive. And so I just kind of dismissed it, took some, Benadryl, took some NyQuil cold, Alka-Seltzer cold, all that stuff, and just tried to kind of pound it out. But while I was at my mother-in-law and father-in-law's house, I started to get a little case of the vertigo. And I'd get up in the middle of the night to have to go to the bathroom, and the back of my head, like if you're Jewish, where they'd put that little cap on, it was so incredibly painful for just a second. I mean, like I was like doing Lamaze breathing to get through that pain, and I couldn't understand, like, wow, that is one hell of a headache. So we get back to Kamiah, Kuski, after probably a week, and I'm still just suffering horribly from vertigo. So I go in to see my doctor. She calls in physical therapy. They come in and they have me do some exercises that can shake those rocks back in. And my physical therapist said he wished he would have taped it because my nystagmus, where your eyes go back and forth really fast, he said was like a cartoon character. He's like, it was wild. He's like, I have never seen that severe case of nystagmus in my life. So he sent me home with some exercises to do, and they had zero effect. Zero. So I went back in. My doctor said, knowing your history, I don't think it's anything, but let's get you an MRI. And I agreed. So between seeing her and getting my MRI, I was out in the hot tub because, again, my neck is just killing me. The back of my head is killing me. My whole body just aches. And I was soaking in the hot tub, and I got out, and it's about 10 steps from my hot tub to my back door. I got into the back door and I collapsed on my knees and started throwing up because the vertigo was so bad. I couldn't find center. And my husband's like, nope, we're going to the hospital. And we went up to the nearest hospital where they finally ended up admitting me. And I'm going to do a quick little gripe. Um, if you're female, it seems like regardless of the issues, their first diagnosis is going to be, well, you have a UTI. They did that to my mom. They've done that to me. They've done that to friends. I mean, seriously, like that's as far as you're going to go for a female patient. So they were getting ready to, dismiss me and send me home. And I threw up on the nurse's shoes. They had given me anti-nausea, and obviously that didn't work. And my husband's like, I'm not taking her home like this. So they did let me spend the night. And the next day, they're like, you need to get an MRI. And I said, I have one scheduled for the following day. And they said, don't miss it. So we'll talk about that in the next one, about how that all came down.